Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're stepping into one of the most pivotal moments in world history, the year 1492, when Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, made landfall in the Americas. But this isn't just a story about one man or one ship. It's a sweeping tale of ambition, miscalculation, ancient civilizations, and consequences that would reshape continents. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's journey together across time and ocean, to the moment the old world met the new. Long before the sails of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria appeared on the horizon, the Americas were already home to millions. From the dense rainforests of the Amazon to the towering peaks of the Andes, from the sprawling pueblos of the American Southwest to the grand cities of Mesoamerica, vibrant civilizations thrived in astonishing diversity. The Aztec Empire ruled from its glittering capital, Tenochtitlan, a city built on an island in the middle of a lake, connected by causeways and adorned with temples that reached toward the sky. Far to the south, the Inca Empire stretched along the spine of the Andes, its roads weaving through mountains and valleys with engineering precision unmatched in Europe. In North America, the Mississippian culture, centered around Cahokia near modern-day St. Louis, boasted earthen mounds taller than many European cathedrals of the time. These societies had their own languages, religions, trade networks, agricultural systems, and political structures. They were not empty lands waiting to be discovered, as later European narratives would claim. They were worlds unto themselves, complex, dynamic, and deeply rooted in their environments. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Europe was emerging from the Middle Ages. The Ottoman Empire's conquest of Constantinople in 1453 had disrupted traditional overland trade routes to Asia, sending European powers scrambling for alternatives. Spices, silks, and precious metals from the East were immensely valuable, and whoever could find a direct sea route stood to gain unimaginable wealth and influence. Portugal led the charge, pioneering navigation down the African coast. But Christopher Columbus, an Italian mariner living in Spain, had a different idea. Columbus believed that by sailing west across the Atlantic, he could reach the riches of India and China more quickly. His calculations, however, were wildly off. He underestimated the Earth's circumference and had no knowledge of the continents lying between Europe and Asia. When he pitched his plan to the Portuguese, they rejected it. Then, he turned to Spain. At the time, Spain was undergoing its own transformation. In January 1492, after nearly 8 centuries of Muslim rule in parts of the Iberian Peninsula, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella completed the Reconquista with the fall of Granada, the last Muslim kingdom in Spain. Flush with victory and religious fervor, they were also eager to expand Spain's global influence. After months of deliberation, and with funding partly secured from confiscated Jewish assets following the Alhambra decree that expelled Jews from Spain, they agreed to sponsor Columbus's voyage. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Palos de la Frontera in southern Spain with 3 ships and about 90 men. The journey was long and tense. By early October, the crew grew restless, fearing they'd sailed into oblivion. But on October 12th, a lookout on the Pinta shouted "Tierra!" Land. They had reached an island in the Bahamas, which the indigenous Lucayan people called Guanahani. Columbus renamed it San Salvador. To him, this was the outer edge of the East Indies. He never realized he had encountered a completely unknown continent to Europeans. Mistaking the native Taíno people for Indians, he noted in his journal their generosity, their lack of weapons, and most importantly, their potential for conversion to Christianity and service to the Spanish crown. Over the next few weeks, Columbus explored other islands in the Caribbean, including what are now Cuba and Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. He was struck by the beauty of the land, the lush forests, clear rivers, and abundant fruits. But his wonder was quickly overshadowed by greed. He wrote that the natives would make fine servants, and that with 50 men they could all be subjugated and made to do whatever one wished. This mindset would set the tone for centuries of colonization. Columbus established a small settlement on Hispaniola, called La Navidad, leaving behind 39 men while he returned to Spain. When he arrived in Barcelona in March 1493, he was hailed as a hero. He brought with him parrots, gold trinkets, and several kidnapped Taíno people presented as specimens of the new lands. The Spanish monarchy was ecstatic. A second voyage was quickly organized, this time with 17 ships and over 1,000 men. But when Columbus returned to Hispaniola in late 1493, he found La Navidad destroyed, its men dead, likely killed, in retaliation for their abuses against a local population. Undeterred, he founded a new settlement, Santo Domingo, and began a brutal campaign of forced labor, enslavement, and violence against the Taíno. Under his rule, the indigenous population plummeted due to disease, starvation, and outright slaughter. Within decades, the Taíno civilization was nearly extinct, a tragic foreshadowing of what would unfold across the Americas. Back in Europe, news of Columbus's discovery spread like wildfire. Other powers, England, France, the Netherlands, soon launched their own expeditions, eager to claim pieces of this new world. The Treaty of Tordesillas, in 1494, brokered by the Pope, attempted to divide the non-European world between Spain and Portugal along a meridian in the Atlantic. It was a bold act of imperial arrogance, drawn without any input from the people who actually lived on those lands. Yet, the true legacy of 1492 is far more complex than the myth of a lone explorer discovering a new world. It marks the beginning of the Columbian Exchange, the massive, transformative transfer of plants, animals, diseases, people, and ideas between the Eastern and Western hemispheres. From the Americas came maize, potatoes, tomatoes, chocolate, and tobacco foods that would revolutionize diets and economies worldwide. From Europe came wheat, horses, cattle, and devastatingly, smallpox, measles, and influenza diseases to which Native Americans had no immunity. The demographic collapse that followed was catastrophic. Some scholars estimate that up to 90% of the indigenous population perished within a century of contact. Columbus himself never set foot on the mainland of North or South America. He died in 1506, still convinced he had reached the outskirts of Asia. It was Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian explorer who followed in his wake, who first argued that these lands were part of a separate continent, later named America in his honor. But the name Columbus became immortalized in history books, school curricula, and national holidays, especially in the United States, where Columbus Day was established in 1937. In recent decades, however, that celebration has grown increasingly controversial. Indigenous communities and historians have pushed for a more honest reckoning with the violence and exploitation that followed 1492. Many cities and states now observe Indigenous Peoples Day instead, a recognition that the Americas were not discovered, but inhabited, loved, and defended for millennia. So what do we make of 1492 today? It is not simply a date. It is a turning point, a collision of worlds that unleashed both wonder and horror, connection and conquest. It reminds us that history is rarely about heroes or villains alone, but about choices, consequences, and the enduring resilience of those who survived them. The Taíno may have been nearly erased, but their descendants persist. Their words live on in place names like Haiti and Cuba. Their legacy endures in the DNA of millions across the Caribbean. And their story, like those of countless other indigenous peoples, is being reclaimed, retold, and honored anew. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, taught you something new, or sparked your curiosity, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves history as much as you do. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another journey through time. History isn't just about dates and names, it's about people, places, and the echoes of decisions that still shape our world today. Until next time, keep wondering, keep learning, and keep telling stories. See you soon.